Good Friday afternoon, evening, wherever you may be. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Has the apocalypse happened yet?
Not that I know, but I haven't been out of my home, so I don't know. For all I know, it might have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you should know because did your Docker images stop pulling? I mean, that's what I'm talking about. What are you talking about?
Depends which images we're talking about. Images that I use for demos and stuff like that, they are low volume, so it won't happen. And the images that I use for work, they are not in Docker Hub for years now. So
there you go.
I'm not in trouble.
I'm not sure what other apocalypses might be happening, so that's the only one I was concerned about. Okay, anyway. Thanks for joining us today. If you don't know who we are, my name is Darren. This is Victor right over here. And we're the co-host of a podcast called DevOps Paradox. I don't know why I just bounced that way. I'm feeling very bouncy today. It's just one of those things. I'm making sure I'm not locking my knees out. Because if I lock my knees out, I could fall. And that would be bad. Anyway, we're the co-host of a podcast called DevOps Paradox. And those come out on Wednesdays at 6 a.m. Eastern. Yes, now the world is all completely on standard time, I think. Except down in Australia, which they went from 6 time zones to 20 time zones, I think. I thought it was bad in the U.S. I stand corrected. Australia.
You're saying that Australia has 20 time zones.
It's not 20, but they have a vast more number. I think actually, let me think here for a second. I think Australia actually has more time zones than the U.S. does, which is interesting. Because it's nowhere near as big as the U.S. But anyway, on Fridays we do this live stream just so you get completely unfiltered and more importantly unedited. What that means is I don't have to work on this a whole lot more than just doing the show. So I'm thankful for that. Oh joy. Grab your drink. It's time to open up the drink today. I have a lemon, sparkling water. You have a Dos
Beer
Equis?
with lemon.
Beer with lemon. Okay, so that's why it's yellow. Okay.
Yeah.
What kind is it? In case we're looking for sponsorship?
I'm still...
I am still. Okay. I know the name, but that's all I know about it. Okay. This week was fairly light from a news perspective, at least from our perspectives.
And it will continue being so.
And why is that?
Until KubeCon. Nobody is going to announce anything important until KubeCon.
Yeah, that's true. Which is still, I think that's the 17th through the 20th. So it'll probably be quiet again next week, which is fine. It makes our jobs a little bit harder to find interesting things. But this was one of the big interesting things for the week. We speculated last week before last, with the Docker apocalypse coming on, that somebody was going to come up with something. And now AWS has fired the first shot.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they fired the first shot. I know that internally, I know at least a couple of companies that were advising their customers to do something very similar.
Right.
I think it proves my point. I think that we can go through the news, but basically the summary, as I understood, is, hey, use ECR.
Yeah.
That's the summary.
Yep. And so they call out what Docker Hub did, what the limits were, which is fine. But here's where people should not get confused. AWS is not doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They are putting limits on it. It is not like what Docker Hub was. Bless you, or cough. I'm not sure which one that one was. But they are going to open up a new public container registry. Okay, thumbs up. A new website that will allow anyone to browse and search and pull. Again, thumbs up. And here's where Docker Hub went wrong to begin with, where AWS is getting it right from a point that you called out last week of, look, just because it was free, you can't pull away all the free. which Docker Hub hasn't in all, keeping it above board here. But AWS is coming out of the gate saying, okay, a developer sharing public images on AWS will get 50 gig free of storage each month. I don't really understand what that means. Does that mean that you only get 50 gig total? Or does that mean you get 50 gig this month and 50 gig to the next month, which means 100 gig? Is it a limit? Right, that's what I'm curious about.
Best guess is that it's total.
It'll be interesting to see what it is.
I don't think that the game is really okay. So who is going to offer better free services than Docker Hub? I don't think that that's the game. The game is, hey, if I cannot benefit from Docker Hub for free, if I need to pay, then let me evaluate all the options I have instead of upgrading Docker Hub. I think that's the general sentiment. And let's be honest, if you're in cloud, it makes perfect sense to keep your images with the same vendor. I mean, that's what I would do, right? If I'm running in AWS, why not keep it there? If I run in Azure, why not keep it there? Why would I would need to have, and this is now important thing, if I host my things in Azure, for the sake of argument, could be anywhere, logical step for me is to keep my images there. So if anybody wants to convince me to move somewhere else, like Docker Hub, it needs to give me a compelling reason. So as long as cloud providers are giving the same service, it's enough to be the same criteria, they will win.
Right. Well, let me fast forward to the end of this. Workloads that are running in AWS gets unlimited bandwidth from any region when pulling publicly shared images. Right? That's great. Now let's look at the peanut butter here. So this was sort of like the two pieces of bread here. Let's look at this middle one. Anyone who pulls images anonymously will get 500 gig of free data bandwidth each month. By authenticating with AWS, you get free data bandwidth up to 5 terabytes each month. Docker Hub is nowhere near close to that, even when you're, well, is that true? You get unlimited if you have a paid account, right?
If you're logged in, then you get double, 200, I think, pools or something like that.
Yeah, I think they said that here at the top. Let me go back up
Yeah.
here. Authenticated account is to 200 every 6 hours.
I mean, to be honest, that thing at the bottom of that text to me is kind of silly. If I'm going to pull, if I have my own images, I'm paying AWS whatever I need to pay. That's my business, all this stuff, right? If I want to use some public, let's say open source based image, something like that, I'm not going to sign up for AWS or anybody like that. I'm already signed up in Docker Hub. I'm not going to sign up to AWS and then for some other image go to Azure and some third image go to Google. If all of them force me to sign up, I'm going to freak out for open source images.
Right. So I think this is interesting. Your point about if you're running workload wherever that your repository, your registry should be as near that workload as possible. That's just
unless
common sense.
I have a compelling reason to go somewhere else.
So what would that compelling reason to go somewhere else be for you?
Better service, cheaper price, like with anything else, basically, right? Yeah. The story is that most of us tend to choose one provider that we use for our business, right? If you're talking about cloud, we are in Azure or Google or AWS. I'm going to use their services unless somebody offers me something better, right? Like, for example, CloudWatch, and everybody offers me something better, so I might be compelled not to use it, right? But only because it's better.
Okay. Anything else you want to talk about here before we move on?
No.
Okay. Well, and we actually had, hey, good to see you.
Yeah, deal.
And there's Neil as well. Thanks for showing up today. We forgot to say hello at the beginning. I just sort of got into business. Speaking of getting into business, this was very interesting to me. A new pricing model for Travis. Now, didn't Travis get purchased?
I'm going to break my rule about not trashing other CI/CD solutions.
Okay, Travis hang on. But wait. Time out. One question first. Didn't Travis get purchased by somebody, or am I thinking about somebody else?
No. Travis was purchased by a company whose name I forgot, which basically is... it's very obvious that they are not committed to kind of work on that product, on that business, on that service. They're just trying to squeeze every last penny they can get out of it until kind of like it dies.
It was Idera bought them in January of 2019.
Something like that.
Idera. Well, that's I'm looking at it right now. So anyway, okay. Continue. Go for your trashing and wait and go.
No, from my perspective, Travis is dead, right? If anybody is looking for a similar service, that golden standard today is CircleCI. I'm not saying that CircleCI is the best nor that it is the worst, and whether it's a good choice or bad choice, but comparable choice to Travis and the much better option, that's CircleCI, without any doubt.
Is that it?
Yeah, Travis is dead. Rest in peace.
Okay.
I don't know how. I'm not religious. I don't know how this works.
That wasn't very well. That wasn't very trashing. And but I think your phrasing there, it wasn't. But your phrasing was very correct. CircleCI is comparable to Travis CI, right? And just like you could use, if you're on, I'll go back to what we were just talking about with AWS. If you're on AWS, you probably should be looking at code build, because the Travises, the CircleCIs, the code builds, those all follow the same rough model, right? Yeah. You can make it a little more complex. It's great for simple type builds, for lack of a better word. And you can make it more complex, but then you start running into potentially some issues, and that's where you can see some differentiators.
Simply, I think that Travis was first, I think.
Yeah.
So somebody might correct me. And I always saw CircleCI as a clone of Travis, right? That was just over time improving at faster rate than Travis, but it's a clone of Travis, so use a clone.
Yep.
Brother died, go to the other one.
Yep. So so the upcoming pricing change will not affect those of you who are on these things, which is fine. But if you're building on a Mac OS, this I will give them. And this is a great understatement. Mac OS builds need special care and attention. That is a Idera, Travis, 2 thumbs up, right? I don't fault you for having to go more on that. That's great. Building with more 10 concurrent builds, great. If you need these, as they phrase them, mega builders, now you can build faster, but guess what? It costs you more money. Gee, it sounds like a business plan to me, right?
If you ask me, every free CI/CD service should be limited to one concurrent build. There is no need for people to have more than one concurrent build for free.
For free.
Kind of like, that's really, when you get to the point that concurrency is important for a single build, then, hey,
it's time to pay up.
You should pay, whichever service you use, right?
Yeah, that's more than reasonable. Building on public repositories, I think this was the one to where this caused a lot of the rub. But again, it goes back to it was being abused. I mean, they had crypto miners, Tor node operators, all these things. So you have to change build definitions, blah, 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 whatever.
But like, if you a bit up they're mentioning we encountered abuse from community and stuff like that. I will call that out as a lie, kind of like the only thing that I'm noticing is people leaving Travis. So I'm not sure what is the abuse happening, unless they think that abuse is, hey, those few that are left are still using us.
Maybe.
That's trashing.
Yeah. Okay. What was interesting too is like beginning on Monday, the 2nd of November, which was this past Monday, this post came out on November 2nd. So I was like, surprise, your bill just went up. It's fine. It's whatever. It's whatever it is. But hey, you can still get a one concurrent plan. If it works for you, go for it.
Again, I'm gonna tell people the same thing I'm telling them when they mention Swarm. Go somewhere else.
Go somewhere else. Okay. Are you done with Travis now?
Yeah. Rest in peace.
Okay. All right. So really the last item. So if you have some questions, you're on live with us today, go ahead and get some questions in over in the chat. Making Terraform provider development more accessible. Have you ever written a Terraform provider?
Yes.
Was it a pleasant experience?
It wasn't a complicated experience. Yeah, it was okay.
It wasn't complicated, but it was okay. So what they released this week is a different way to write providers. And it was funny, they called out at the very top, providers enable everything from standing up critical infrastructure to ordering a pizza. Have you ever used the ordering a pizza one?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, it's for Domino's.
Okay.
It's just, if you've never done that, you can put in the credit card, your CVV, all the stuff. You put in your address, you pick the store, and you place the order.
I love it. This is brilliant.
Anyway, let's go back here. So they've actually created new libraries to work with. So there's actually two of them. There's a basic one called Terraform Plugin Go, which is already available. And they're also going to do a Terraform Plugin Mux. So you can multiplex multiple Plugin Go servers together. I have not written a provider before. I don't know that I'm going to look into it a whole lot because I don't use Terraform a whole lot. But here's sort of the model of what you can use and what you can do. So if you're used to writing Terraform providers and you weren't aware of this, go for it. They're actually doing a live event on the 20th at 1 p.m. Pacific, which, coincides with KubeCon.
Of course it does.
So anyway, I thought this was interesting, especially if you're into the Terraform stuff. Now, talking about Hashi for a minute, let me go off on sort of a separate tangent here. I have played some with Waypoint.
Oh, up or down?
Sideways still. Because it was not very clear. So I'm trying to do it, quote unquote, the right way, not just the, how should I say, developer advocate or developer relations way. I'm actually trying to productionize it a little bit, not for real production, but I'm trying to figure out, okay, how much of a pain would this be? And it was not clear from the documentation how to do certain things. Once I figured it out, it still wasn't very clear. So I'm still working through it. I think it will be fine, especially once they get it out of preview. I mean, Hashi doesn't do stuff halfway when it's productionized. Right. I'll give Hashi their due there. So yeah. I know that I'm working with rough edges right now, and that's okay. But once I figured out the pieces, then it made sense.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Do you think that you would, let's say that we're talking about Kubernetes, just for the sake of argument to limit the scope. Do you see yourself or anybody using Waypoint to build and deploy to production?
If I have to answer that right now, the answer is no.
Of course, because Waypoint does not allow you to specify, hey, maybe you have Istio, can I set it up, right? Maybe you have this, maybe you don't want to deployment, maybe you want, no, kind of like there is only one way to deploy to Kubernetes, and that is through resources Waypoint creates. It's a deployment which creates and the service, two things, not even ingress, right? So it's completely out of the question to use it in production. Now,
today.
You can today. I'll get to tomorrow.
Yeah.
So today it is limited to development environments. In my head, I might be wrong, right? Kind of, hey, I'm a developer. I type some code. I execute Waypoint up, and it's up and running. So far, so good. But if I need to have my YAML, Helm customized, whatever definitions, no matter what, because I need to run it in staging, production, wherever, then what would be the reason for me as a developer to say, I don't want to use that stuff? I'm going to write the new stuff that will deploy my application is a completely different way. I'm going to spend time, whether that's 5 minutes or 1 day, doesn't matter, to create Waypoint definition that will do a subset of what would normally be done through the definitions that I already have.
Well, you're stating, so you're talking about existing state of things.
Yes.
Which I don't know that I would ever wedge hardly any technology into an existing state, or new technology into an existing state.
Okay. So
going back to your earlier point, there has to be a strong enough differentiator for me to make the change.
Exactly.
And so if my stuff, no matter how bad it may be, if it's working and it's working within reason, meaning, okay, my deployments normally take 15 minutes, it's going to shave it down to 14 minutes, there's no way I'm going to even deal with it. If my deployments take 6 hours and I can get it down to 15 minutes, okay, it's worth a conversation. But
simply put, kind of their current implementation of Kubernetes is too simplistic to work under any circumstance. Now, where I might see it very useful is ECS or ACI or non-Kubernetes stuff. Right. Yeah. That's why I said let's limit to Kubernetes. I cannot imagine the use case for Kubernetes, unless, and here's the thing, just like Terraform, they have a plugin mechanism. Mm-hmm. So today there is a Kubernetes provider. Tomorrow we might have Helm provider, right?
Right.
But if I create my own Helm definitions and I use Helm provider in Waypoint, then what is Waypoint doing for me, right? It's just executing Helm apply after executing Docker image build, right?
Right.
So,
yeah. Again, that's the reason why
Google Cloud Run. That's a great use case. Yes.
Right.
Google Cloud Run. Yes, absolutely.
And that's going to actually be my test cases once I finish getting the Waypoint infrastructure done the way I want it to. My target environment is going to be GCR. That's my plan. So that makes sense. But just for Kubernetes today, there's not enough there for me to say yes.
And there's another thing. I know that you can change to Dockerfile. That's a recent update, right? But yes. Build packs by default, I don't want to build with build packs. It's just horrible. I don't want to not have Dockerfile. I don't want to not have anything. Kind of.
Yeah. And you don't
sooner or later, you're going to hit the ceiling and say, okay, now I need this. And you will need a place to define that something.
Right. So if you can use a build pack, that's great. Right? If you don't need to do it, great. Please use a build pack. But if you've already defined your Docker file, just use your Docker file. That's fine too. That's
Yeah.
that was the problem with the 0.1.0 was the Docker file wasn't there yet. So you didn't have a choice. But now you got a choice with 0.1.4. Well, or 1.3 is when it came out, I think. My days are running together.
What is true that I've been a bit harsh. They're very early, kind of.
Yes.
Terraform was ridiculous very early. So to be fair, it will be interesting. I don't see great usefulness in it today, but it will be very interesting to see how far it gets half a year from now, a year.
Yes. I'm looking forward to that as well because I'm always an infrastructure nerd, and this is a very interesting piece of infrastructure to me. So that's that. I think we got a question.
By the way,
yes,
it is very likely, but not guaranteed, that actually the next use this video is Waypoint.
It may or may not be, or may be true.
Because until I finish, I have no idea. I cannot guarantee anything anymore.
Okay. Neil actually had a question. Have you ever used Longhorn storage for K8s? I haven't.
No.
That's the Rancher one, I believe, if I remember right.
Now, I wonder, Neil, if you can say kind of like, where are you hosting it? Whatever you're doing. Is it, I guess, because I have a real beef with the big three cloud providers, is that I really don't, I have to, but I don't want to think about those things if I'm running in cloud. It should be responsibility of a provider to give me something better than silly block storage or NFS choices.
Yes. If I remember Neil's stuff right, I believe he was on premise.
Yep, okay, right then that makes sense. Yes, then those choices make sense, but I'm not experienced with it.
Yeah, unfortunately not. It seems to be just basically looking at the one picture. It seems to be sort of what Portworx gives in a very rough combination, but I don't know.
Yeah,
it's interesting how they have this
storage.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting here to me is how they basically just give me a dumb box with memory, CPU, and a crap ton of disks, and then let it go.
I call it distributed storage. I think that's some solution like this will become the norm, hopefully a year from now, something like that.
Hopefully so. Unfortunately, Neil, sorry, we don't have an answer for that. And you were teasing your video for next week, but your video for this week.
What did I do this week?
Are you ever going to... What did you do this week?
Argo rollouts, yes.
Argo rollouts, yes.
Yes.
When are you going to give up on Argo?
I don't know. So there is one more piece from Argo project potentially interesting to do, which is Argo workflows. But since I'm trying to avoid CI/CD solutions, Argo workflows is not really CI/CD. It is workflows in more general terms, which can be used as CI/CD. So I'm not sure whether I will do that one.
Okay. Yeah, that's sort of their fourth bullet. It's just run CI/CD pipelines.
Yeah.
But it's just a workflow engine, right?
Yeah. I mean, in a way, you could say that CI/CD is a workflow engine with a lot of integrations usually.
Integrations and opinionations. Whereas this looks like this is just a workflow engine that happens to have a little bit of CI/CD opinionation with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm highly unlikely to do that one anytime soon. So if I stay true to what I just said, then that's it. I'm finished with Argo.
Okay. Are you sad?
No, I'm quite the opposite. I'm excited to play with other toys.
So what are the
New
other
toys.
toys that are on your radar right now?
So right now, I don't know yet what I will do in terms of a catalog subject, because that is usually something big. As for weekly videos, Waypoint almost certainly comes. Whether next week or not, that's a different question. Lens is almost certainly coming as well.
Really?
And yeah,
Why
so Lens
Lens?
and Waypoint.
Why Lens?
Because I got a couple of people sending me messages, kind of, hey, what about Lens? I think as a reaction to doing different Kubernetes dashboards and UIs and what's not, right?
Right.
So Lens is coming. I'm not gonna give a spoiler what I think about it. So and the third one that is almost certain to be done is Gitpods.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Because I already did the pre-work, let's say. Now it's more about demoing and recording.
Okay. I was hoping for something a little more exciting than that, but
No, the Gitpods is okay. Let me give a spoiler alert.
okay.
It's a very interesting concept, potentially very useful, but I'm having difficulty finding use cases for it.
You're talking about this one, right?
Mm-hmm. In a nutshell, it's browser-based IDE connected to your Git repository that gives you development environment, right? I don't know, you have Go installed, you have application running in the background, stuff like that. Yeah, CI/CD saying in top is just silly. But development environment, browser-based development environment. Now,
So how is this any different than what we were seeing from, wait, which way did it go? We went to GitHub,
GitHub Spaces.
Workspaces, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
It's conceptually the same thing.
Okay.
But, sometimes, whatever the frequency is, I do some commits to open source projects. Sometimes they're dumb, sometimes they're a bit less dumb. And this is very useful to me for that, because I really don't want to, set up everything for a project on which I work occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But the things I work on kind of on daily basis, I don't think that we are there yet to replace my laptop. I mean, it's still officially in a laptop, right? Browser in a laptop, but I'm still not sure that I want to give away my, let's say, VS Code, right? And everything else that I have.
Right. And just taking a quick look at it, the pricing, at least from a personal standpoint, is pretty straightforward.
Yes.
Nothing huge there. It's right in line with what the GitHub pricing is.
Yeah, basically 50 hours a month. So
well,
assuming
that's
that you
the free. Yeah, for free, you get 50 hours for the free tier, but only public repositories.
Yes, exactly. So use case that I mentioned before, every once in a while I contribute to something. I think that the 50 hours is much more than I or anybody will need, because beyond 50 hours a month, that's a full-time work on something, right? Which falls into that category. I'm not giving away my Visual Studio Code for that yet.
Right.
What this would be, one interesting use case I imagine for this is the on-prem version.
Right.
Because I think that many enterprises are having a real problem with onboarding new people. Right? I don't know what's your experience, but I was in those situations where it can take literally weeks until a person can be productive.
Yeah.
And saying, hey, click this button in a private repository of the project, and there you go.
Well, here's the thing, though, is if you have people coming in, now you're dictating what kind of tools they can use to write their code. That could be a challenge, right?
Yeah, but it could be kind of like, hey, you can work on this project right away, and then if you want to drop it immediately after same second or next week or whenever, when you feel more comfortable that you set up everything locally by yourself, go ahead, right? But you get up and running fast, and I think that there must be some use case for that.
Yep. I mean, that's the thing is, if you're going to self-host it, you can run it in GCP, AWS, or just in Kubernetes for $0, unlimited users, unlimited use. You're just paying for the compute.
Exactly.
What you don't get are unlimited pre-builds, whatever that really means. You don't get shared workspaces, and that's the key part there. If you're doing pair programming of any sort, or, hey, can you look over my shoulder? This was one of the big wows that we saw from back when it was still Visual Studio Workspaces or whatever it was called. Snapshots, admin dashboard, right? So these 4 features are worth $20 per user.
Exactly. And I like kind of, this is one of the examples of the projects where I think that the separation between free and what you need to pay is just about right. Kind of like, there is enough to satisfy a lot of people for free, and those who need more pay a decent amount of money, not extraordinarily high. It's all good.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. Just, I don't know. How should I feel about this? I don't know.
It's what I like about it is that it is very low investment in time. I mean, we already saw that in money it's ridiculously low, but in time it's very low investment. So it's not one of those things like Kubernetes where you say, hey, jumping into Kubernetes is a big decision because we are not going to do that in 15 minutes.
Right.
This is
this picture calls it out, right? This picture calls it out. Their line here is choose project, start coding. Yeah. But in the classic sense, we have to choose the project, then we have to clone it, then we have to check out the branch that we want to do, then we have to look at the README if there is a README, and then we have to get our tooling installed, and we have to run the blah, blah, blah until we can actually start coding.
Yeah. I mean, open the repo I just sent you. Link here.
All right.
It's a demo silly repo, right?
Yep. Whoops.
Look at, okay, so you don't see, I didn't know that. So, can I share my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, let me stop sharing here. And then when you share, there's yours.
You should see it, right?
Yep, I'm going to add you in right now. Okay.
Yeah.
It's yours.
Look at this. Look at the button.
I can't see a button.
Git put?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You click a button on a repo and there you go. And it will take now 2 minutes because I destroyed the workspace. But if I didn't, it would... and a minute from now or 2, I will be coding. And I think that's the awesome part.
You click on a button, you get a drink,
here you
go to the bathroom. So less than a minute.
Look at this. I didn't even do anything. It already started my application, it compiled my application, and here's the result on the right side.
So that's a preview environment, effectively.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was simple.
Anyways, Tuesday.
That's where you're heading.
or next week or week after that.
Whenever. It's going to happen sometime. Okay. So if you're interested in more about learning more about Gitpod, that will be coming up in the next couple of weeks on Victor's Tuesday videos.
Yes.
Waypoint is coming up. Gitpod is coming up.
Yes.
Maybe Argo workflow. Maybe. That's lower on the list probably.
Not anytime soon.
Yeah. Okay. What else?
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Are you saying we're going to be done early today?
We're going to be down early. I mean, KubeCon messed us up.
There's no news.
But that means that a few weeks from now, we will have news until we retire.
Yeah. And one thing I forgot to go over earlier is this week's episode was about when you should outsource. And if you haven't listened to that, it's important to listen to that now before listening to the next few weeks of episodes. Because we're talking with a number of providers over the next few weeks. And understanding what we think about outsourcing, whether you agree with it or disagree with how we think, will help set context for where we're heading in the next few weeks. So I'm doing lots of editing and getting the calendars. We've got 3 more episodes to record for the year. We are working on our predictions. We're going to look back over what happened in 2020. Nobody could have predicted what would have happened in 2020. I figured I still would have been on an airplane every week. That didn't happen. So we're going to look back over 2020. We're going to look ahead towards 2021 because of all the different things that 2020 is making possible for 2021 to happen with. If 2020 didn't happen the way it happened, I don't think a lot of things in 2021 are going to happen the way that they were probably going to happen. What do you think of that statement?
Brilliant. I'm amazed. Did you come up with it right away or you prepared?
No, I just thought of that. I've been thinking about it, but I had never put the words to it. Because and I've seen variations of this in different places, but 2020 helped force the hand for cloud migrations and other work that was 5 years, 10 years out. It got fast forwarded. Never would you have thought that so many people could actually work from home and the businesses do much better than they were when people were working in an office. I have a friend that works for a company south of me. I won't say exactly where. And they had the only time work happens is when you are in the office. It's not possible for work to happen outside of the office. You must be in your cube from 8 to 5 in order for work to happen. Well, guess what? They haven't been in the office. They won't even start looking at going back to the office until January. They are having a record-setting year over the past, I think, 15 years. This is a record-setting year for them. Nobody's in the office, except for one person. A call center person is in the office.
But that's the thing. Even if the productivity is not higher remote, let's say it's the same.
Yeah.
And I think that wouldn't be overstatement. Hey, how much money you can save on not renting offices? I mean, I do think that every company needs offices because I don't think it is truly productive to be always remote either. I think that contact is very important, but not as in every day 8 hours in the office. And hopefully that's where most companies will go after COVID. I have a strong desire to meet my colleagues, but then I want to go back home and not see them again for some
year.
time.
Yeah, wait another year or 6 months. Yeah, even if most people either own buildings or are locked into buildings, so there's still maintenance, but you're not having to pay that maintenance as much. You're not having to pay the cleaning crews as much. You're not having to, all of these things to where you're able to shuffle funds around to where you can do other things. You're not having to stock the break rooms, right? There's all these things that are in theory freeing up money to allow you to do other things.
Exactly.
Or pay your investors, one or the other, whichever the case may be.
And also, let's say that you spend same time working when you're remote as when you work from an office, same time, right? Which is, I don't think it's the case. I think that people spend more time working when they're remote. But anyways, let's say the same. That means that actually you're working, like on average 2 hours more every day?
Probably.
Because of the travel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just travel alone, let's say it's 2 hours, that's already like 25% extra of the time you're working.
So maybe you're not doing as much deep work, but maybe you're taking care of smaller things. Or maybe you need to take an hour and a half break instead of an hour break to go take care of something personal, and you come back and you work until done, whatever done is for you that day, and you get in the next day, but everything is already done to get you ready for the next day. The flexibility is powerful.
But there is a dark side of all that, which I don't think it affects you directly, but maybe would affect, let's say, people living in New York, and it definitely affects most of Europe, and that is that most people's apartments are not ready for this.
Right.
If you live outside of a major city, you have a house, you can probably find a spot that you can call your office, right?
Yep.
Here, for example, people are actually in bad state because work is actually living room. Wife and then the husband in a living room.
Yeah, and kids
office.
doing school.
Kids.
Yeah, so it's
living space, kind of not having that dedicated office space is potentially a major issue.
Yep.
Like you're lucky. From your background,
I have a house.
I have it as well. I don't have a house, but I have. This
space.
is a working space.
Yeah.
But the other day I spoke with a few friends, and then they're in a bad state because of that.
Yeah. They're working on the couch probably, and you're not going to be as efficient on a couch as if you're set up and actually feel like you're working somewhere.
I have a perfect combination, man. I have an office room, which is basically for me and my wife and my daughter, right?
Yep.
But my wife is working half-time. And she finishes around noon or 1. And guess when I wake up?
And you wake up at noon or 1. It's like a co-working space, right? She's leaving when you're coming in. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, we have ours is different. My wife actually has a small room. I have a small room, so it works out good for us. So, but that's also the joys of being an empty nester. We have no kids at home. So. And by the way, if my daughter's watching this, please don't move back in. It's not that big of a deal. But please don't move back in. Is that it for today? Do we wrap it early? Is the beer empty? The beer has been empty, right?
For half of the time already.
Half the time already. Okay. All right. So anyway, watch for Victor's video coming out on Tuesday, whatever it may be. And then on Wednesday, we've got an interview with somebody that's a CTO of a company that provides API services for something you would never think that would make a difference. And something, after working with it a number of years myself, I'm glad that I don't have to work with it anymore. So I'm glad somebody else has taken it and API'ized it. Whatever it is.
Oh, yeah. It took me a while to remember what we recorded, but now I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's one of those things that I would never imagine being a use case for a project or a business.
And it's a huge one.
It's a huge one.
Huge. So hopefully you'll like it. This is also an episode that will sound very different. I'll let you listen to it, and then you can come back next week and tell us what was different about it. We'll leave that there. Spoilers. Okay.
Now I need to listen to it as well.
Because you don't remember anymore.
No, I don't.
That's okay. All right. Oh, by the way, this has been crawling down there for quite a while. If you're not a part of the Slack community, go join up the Slack community. You can message us directly. Victor and my Twitter handles are down there. Also, I'm trying to look at my notes again. Yep. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. If you're not subscribed to this YouTube channel, let me, because I normally don't call this out very often. Right underneath Victor, there's a subscribe button. Go click the subscribe button. Click on the bell so you get all the notifications. We don't understand why YouTube makes you do that, but just get all the notifications. Also, go over to, I don't have a link for this here. Go subscribe to Victor's channel. So the videos that Victor puts out are not on the DevOps Paradox channel. They are on, let me get it correct, the DevOps Paradox, the DevOps Toolkit series. There's a "the" on the front of it. The DevOps Toolkit series.
Just shows how not creative I am.
That's fine. Go subscribe to that as well, because his numbers are a lot better than this channel's right now, and we're trying to get both of the numbers up on those. So if you haven't subscribed here, please go ahead and click on the subscribe over there. But then go over to the DevOps Toolkit series, go subscribe over there so you can get the notifications about, because Victor's being very good now. I think I finally put some pressure on him. We got some pressure putting out a weekly podcast. We have a pressure now for the past, I don't know how many months, doing this live stream. And now he's actually doing a weekly video. That's actually better than both of these things put together.
No.
Just to put it there. It takes a lot of work, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
more than you thought?
More than I thought, yes.
And this was the other thing too. We forgot to say, congratulations to Brett Fisher. He had his 100th episode yesterday, or day before yesterday. Normal was on there. Normal Meta, whatever.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the other person that was on. So they were playing games and doing other things. So if you don't watch Brett's show, you should go and check that out as well. It's not as fun as ours. Vladislav, thanks. Have a great weekend. Guillermo, we had you up. Happy Friday, and also great weekend, guys. Everybody have a great weekend. Last weekend was Halloween, so if you still have candy, you need to get rid of all that candy this weekend so you can get ready for bringing in all the other, as we're moving into the other holidays, you need to make space in your tummy for all the other foods, right?
That's the plan.
It's that time. All right. All right, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us live. I'm trying to find all the pieces here, and we will talk to you again next week.